Hi folks, welcome to this video on employee benefits and services. One of the key responsibilities of the HR department is to administer benefits, and we say it's a very specialized task because many times the HR department is responsible for negotiating these benefits as part of their role. So you need to make sure that the benefits we're including meet the strategic objectives that companies have. And significant number of companies say one of their key objectives is to make sure that they're compliant with whatever the government says they have to offer, things like CPP and EI benefits. Cost containment is also another one that many employers cite as being a key strategic objective of theirs, because they need to make sure that in order to attract and retain talent in an organization, they are including benefits that they know they can manage and can afford to have. So they need to make sure it's something that, they don't have to get into and then other employees love it and then they have to back out because, it's cost prohibitive. So cost is important. They also want to increase job satisfaction and employee engagement. Employees want to be happy and proud of the benefit packages their companies offer. And clearly, if they don't feel that way, then the benefits plan hasn't really met that objective. So again, a lot of people will weigh their happiness and like of being with a company in part based on the quality of the compensation of which benefits is a part. Again, it can reduce absenteeism because again, if we offer the right kinds of benefits, good sick leave benefits, but not too generous, people come to see that their package is a good package, and it can actually motivate them and want to come to work. It can also address employee needs. So again, with a lot of flexible benefits, and we have that in another video for you discussing flexible benefits, you'll find that many times when we have this kind of a system, employees get to pick which benefits they want. So there are some benefits that companies may offer that may meet employee needs better than some others, but they can choose to have those benefits that best meet their needs. So the flexibility is important strategically to companies because it allows them to address very specific employee needs. Now, most employers in Canada do offer some form of benefit package. Mostly we hear about the ones for full-time employees because they tend to be a little more rich. But part-timers as well also have benefit packages in many organizations, certainly not all, but in many. And again, they might be a scaled-down version, but they still do have plans. Now, when we look at the cost of benefits as a percentage of payroll, the ones that are legally required, like CPP and EI, they form about 12% of the payroll costs. And on average, Canadian companies in the public sector combined, benefits are largely 37% of an employer's payroll costs. That's significant if you consider that as a line item in your operating expenses, right? So it's a very expensive proposition to even offer benefits. So companies need to make sure that they're the right kind and they meet employee needs and they help them to recruit or attract and retain the right talent. Now, some of the benefits required by law, we've talked about EI, employment insurance, as well as Canada Pension Plan. The 2017 maximum is just over $836, but employers do pay 40% more than any employer does in terms of their contribution to EI to the federal government. Now, maternity and parental leave benefits are also covered by EI. So if you do have a maternity leave or a parental leave you can get money through EI for these types of benefits while you're at home. Now, many companies, we'll talk later, but many companies do tend to offer top-ups to what EI would pay. So, for example, a company might decide, well, you can apply for EI, and whatever they don't cover, we might cover up to 90% or even 100% of your pay. It's not unusual to find in the public sector, they may subsidize up to 93% of the employee's full-time pay if they're on maternity and or parental leave. All right. Canada Pension, same kind of thing. The maximum contribution that an employee makes in 2017 is $25.6410. All right. But again, these maximums change every year. There is some CPP reform on the way coming 2019. There is an article posted in your course, but suffice it to say premiums for CPP are going to go up. We have an aging population and a lot of people are starting to pull their CPP benefits well before they when they retire, particularly if they retire at an earlier age than 65, and many are. So again, that's draining CPP, and so you will find that there will be some reform on the way to increase premiums for CPP, not just to employees, but to employers as well. If we look at workers' compensation insurance, this is another benefit that's offered, and the Workers' Safety and Insurance Board manages this program, but employers also have workers' compensation staff in place in order to make sure that if there are any claims, they're handled properly, and people that may have had a workplace injury are brought back into the workplace in a safe manner. But the benefit itself is really based on employer contributions, so in other words, employees don't pay, and it's calculated as a percentage of payroll. What you pay will actually depend on your industry and your safety record. So if you've had a lot of bad experiences, lots of injuries or even death, you may find that your premiums might be higher than some other competitors in your industry. And in some cases, industries are a lot more risky. Logging and mining tends to have a higher cost per $100 of payroll for WSIB premiums than, say, some other industries might. We also have a benefit through OHIP for people. So a lot of people might be able to get, if they don't have benefits through their workplace, Ontario hospitalization insurance healthcare plans. So the idea is you would get doctor's visits, maybe some hospital coverage, and it's always funded through the employer health tax. So employers contribute to that, employees do not. In terms of other benefits, companies might offer certain vacations and holidays are important. The minimum number of vacation weeks is set out in the Employment Standards Act, and in Ontario, that's a minimum of 2 weeks per year. Now, some companies, don't forget the Employment Standards Act is there to set the minimum standards. We may find some companies that start everybody off with 4 weeks a year, but a lot of companies who do that might say, well, you can't take the 4 weeks all at once. We may need to talk to you about if you do want to take them all at once, if it's something we can approve at a more senior level than yours, or maybe you'll have to break it up and take two-week breaks. Right? There's also leaves of absence that companies have. Again, much of it has been acknowledged through legislation in Ontario. Ontario's come up with leaves of absence coverage, and in Ontario specifically, any employers with 50 or more employees must provide 10 days leave without pay each year for family emergencies. So sometimes, employees might decide that they want to they might have to be off for a particular day, leave for whatever reason, but the idea is they can't terminate you for wanting to take that leave. In terms of family medical leave, employees are eligible for up to 8 weeks, and they can apply for EI to get that leave, get that leave paid. Many companies don't make you go through EI, they may just pay for it themselves. And again, we've already talked about leaves. If you're pregnant, parental leave, and adoption leave is also included under the maternity leave as well. So they get the same benefit coverage or the same access to benefits under the Employment Standards Act as do people who are actually pregnant and who haven't adopted to have a family. The other thing is that sometimes people get terminated through no fault of their own, or perhaps it is a fault of theirs. But in any case, under the Employment Standards Act, the Employment Standards Act says that if employees are terminated, they need to get some pay in lieu of notice. If we don't want to pay them in lieu of notice, we just need to provide them with notice. So now, it's generally 1 week's pay for each year of service up to 8 weeks. So the maximum you can get in terms of notice or pay in lieu of notice is up to 8 weeks. So somebody who might have been with a company for 15 years gets 8 weeks. Somebody who's been with a company 2 years is entitled to 2 weeks. Some people or some companies also have severance pay. Severance pay is usually paid out by companies if they are terminating an employee without cause. So in other words, the employee didn't do anything. There might have been a corporate restructuring and maybe people lost their jobs as a result of it. But the idea is it's not the employee's fault. Those employees are entitled to severance pay. Now, if it's the case that, somebody was doing something, an employee was violating a company policy and they were fired for cause or with just cause, then a company won't pay severance pay, but they would definitely give you some notice pay in order to before they actually terminate you or as part of the termination process. There are definitely Again, there are definitely different payments for people who suffer from a massive layoff. So some companies, terminate all or a significant part of their employee population. And sometimes that happens because they've decided to close their business, do other things. Or they've declared bankruptcy. In that case, the amount of notice that's given isn't based on the number of weeks that you've worked. The minimum number of weeks that people would be given is 8 weeks notice or notice for their termination. And again, that's if you have just under 200 employees. And then it would go up from there. If you have up to over 200, but maybe up to 400 or 500, it would increase to around 12 weeks. So you might want to visit this link at the Ontario Ministry of Labour site and look up mass layoffs or mass termination and see what the guidelines are. Or if you're viewing this video and you're not in our province, you might want to go to your own employment standards branch website in your province and have a look at what that is. But it's certainly a lot richer than this payment in lieu of notice is. Now, there are some voluntary company-sponsored benefits, and these are benefits that we normally associate with things that a company offers, but they don't need to, so they're voluntarily offering it. Sick leave. Employees are given sometimes a set number of paid sick days each year. So the idea is if you're sick, a company will pay you for it, but they don't have to. Again, they will. And the company sets the number of days that might be. It might be 10, it might be 8, whatever it is, but they're going to pay you. Now, if you're a person who's remained healthy and you haven't used up all your sick time within a year, companies, for the most part, don't pay you for them. So you can't say, well, I didn't take any sick days, so can you pay me for the days I was here and not sick? Well, that's not going to happen in most corporations. Usually they don't allow a carryover of them as well into the next year. So you either use them, you be sick, or you lose them. Many companies too offer what we call a short-term disability plan. So in other words, let's say that you've had heart surgery and you have to be off work for 5 weeks. Some companies have a short-term disability plan that might pay you for up to 3 weeks or maybe up to 3 months that you can be sick. They won't pay you full pay usually, some might, but most of them might pay you half of your regular pay or maybe even 2/3 of your regular pay. If you needed to be off beyond the period of the short-term disability that the company offers, then you would have to be referred to your insurance company where you have long-term disability which has been purchased on your behalf by the company, but you pay for it. You pay the premium to have that long-term disability coverage, and then that insurance company will determine your eligibility to have some kind of an income through the insurance company. So long-term disability is another benefit that companies would offer if your short-term plan, if they have one at all, expires. You can get additional paid vacations and holidays as we have here, your Civic holiday in August, for example. There's Boxing Day, New Year's Day, Christmas Day, all kinds of paid vacation days. And you also have leaves of absence, which is a benefit for bereavement leave and sabbatical leaves. And again, bereavement is something that companies offer. If a parent, a child, an aunt and uncle, they die, they usually have a specific policy in place that tells you how many days you'll get depending on who passed away and the relationship to you. And they'll tell you how many days that is. And again, that would be paid time off. Anything over and above that, you may not get paid for. The company has no obligation to pay you for. Sabbatical leaves are also something. So these are more common in university, senior academic type settings where you might have professors who go off to re-educate or even say in school boards. They might have employees that take time away from the workplace to upgrade, and they may take significant amounts of time off. While you're on sabbatical leave, usually you don't get paid, but in some areas what they do is they plan for sabbatical leaves. So some of the school boards, for instance, what they might do, they might say, well, if you're interested in doing a sabbatical, we can drop your salary for the next 5 years, say, by 20%. So you'd only be collecting, say, 80% of your salary. And then what would happen is that in the year that you're off, that 20% that you forewent, that you didn't take in the previous years, would be your income. It would be like getting a deferred income in the year that you're on sabbatical, but you've really saved for it by not taking your full pay for the years previous to you taking the sabbatical. Not everybody does that, but some do. Now, you also have life insurance. So most corporations offer you an opportunity to buy life insurance through them. So if you pass away for whatever reason, you can leave a sum of money to those who are important to you, a spouse, children, whatever. Most of the time, companies will offer you 1 times your salary. So if you earn in the first year $60,000 a year, let's say, then what might happen is that you would have $60,000 of life insurance, and the company would pay for that, pay that premium, so you don't have to pay for it. The only thing is, the premiums that are paid by the company on your behalf to the insurance company for the life insurance benefit, those premiums are taxable to you. So on your T4 slip, when you get it, you will be paying tax on those premiums because they deem that to be income. Now, there's supplemental coverages that companies offer. They offer health care. So you can get prescription drugs, private or semi-private hospital rooms, vision care, dental, physiotherapy, out-of-country coverage, massage therapy, ambulance services. The list can virtually be endless because a lot of this, with most companies, are part of their flexible benefit plan, and you can pick which coverages you want. Some people might say, well, you know what, I don't really need out-of-country coverage. I don't travel, so I'd like to put more into my prescription coverage and get better prescription coverage. So a lot of companies have opportunities for you to kind of choose the benefits that suit you. And again, we talked earlier about long-term disability. This is income protection that people get once they've exhausted their short-term disability. Now, normally, it isn't necessarily 100% of your salary. It depends on the program. You might only get loss of income protection due to terminal illness or a more serious illness beyond the short-term disability period, and you may not receive 100%. You may only receive, say, 60% of your salary. So again, you'll have to figure out whether or not that's something that of course, you have no choice. Most corporations make you sign up for it, and you pay the premium. And it is a good thing that you pay the premium because under the current Canada Revenue Agency rules, what happens is that you, because you pay the premium, if you ever needed long-term disability coverage, all that income that comes into you, whatever percentage of your current salary that is tax-free because you've paid the premiums. So in other words, if you earn $60,000 a year and you received up to 60% of your salary in long-term disability benefits, that $36,000 would be tax-free. You wouldn't have to pay tax on it because you paid the premium. So there is a reason why the employer makes you pay for the long-term disability coverage, because any income you reap from, if you need to use that benefit, is tax-free to you. So that is a great thing to have. The next thing I wanted to talk about is mental health benefits and coverage. That's something that a lot more employers are including in their benefit coverages, but some employers are finding it's a lot more challenging to implement. And some of the challenges that some employers have in terms of improving how they address mental health issues in the workplace are listed here. Some of the challenges management has identified, I'll talk about the first few, are perceptions that employees have. Some employees don't want to disclose that they have mental health issues, or it's difficult for an employer to know how to accommodate an individual that has them if they don't know they have them. So there's a stigma associated with it. Sometimes frontline managers, it's a lack of awareness. They don't even know what to look for, in terms of clues or cues to whether or not somebody might have mental health issues. Sometimes some companies are unable to identify suitable modified work for people who have mental health issues. So again, even if they know, there may be a lot of work they might not be able to do. So how do employers accommodate? And again, the inability to introduce significant flexibility options. So in other words, if there isn't a lot of modified work you could do or other work you could do, what am I supposed to do? Like what are employers supposed to do? So again, there's a whole bunch of issues that a lot of companies have when it comes to mental health benefits and implementing them. Retirement benefits are another thing that a lot of companies offer. So, for example, they have pension plans. One of the more common ones is a defined benefit pension plan. Benefit formula is based on your earnings and years of service. So, in other words, the more money you make with a company and the longer you're there, the bigger your pension will be. These are probably the types of plans that are the most lucrative to employees, but they're also the most expensive for the company to manage. The one that's become increasingly popular over more recent years is the defined contribution pension plan. So in other words, you would contribute to your plan, as would the company, but you're contributing money. Now, the company doesn't have to contribute, but you would if you wanted to be part of it. Benefits or any contributions into this plan, and your benefits would be based on the amount of contribution and the value of the fund. So, in other words, some companies might allow you to buy stock in certain companies. They might give you 3 investment options. You can buy 100% equity stock with the contributions, yours and the companies if they offer it, if they offer up anything in contribution. Or you could stick with a blend, maybe 50% shares and 50% safe investments like bonds or just cash. Or just keep it all in cash or something that's fixed income, like a bond, like a GIC, those kinds of things. And this money that you're putting in, and perhaps your employer's contributing, goes to buy investments in one of those 3 types of funds that you've elected to buy into. The benefit of this is that all the employer does is contribute. But once you leave the company, they don't have an obligation to provide you with a pension in retirement. So you can take that money, however, including the employer's portion if they put anything into it. If you terminate or if you quit in any way or they terminate you, you can take that money and you can get it transferred into another investment vehicle of your own so you don't lose that money. Some employers set up what we call a group RSP. So in other words, you can start making contributions to a group RSP. And if you leave the company, you quit or you're terminated, then those contributions again go with you and you can transfer them into a plan with your financial institution. Some companies also have deferred profit sharing plans. These are plans that some companies have where employees will get paid money and it will be held in trust for them based on the profits of the company. So if they have profit sharing plans, some companies save that money on behalf of the employees, and when the employees retire, that becomes their pension. So a lot of employers have thought about some more typical and even unique ways to help employees plan for their retirement. Now, one of the sample benefit plans that we have, and again, this might be a little bit old, but not too old. This is some of the stuff that we offer. We have dental coverage, which includes orthodontics, Okay, and there's a maximum amount of $2,500. We do have prescription drug coverages, which is 85% reimbursed. Some vision care, where we get some money every 2 years. There's life insurance, which is basic at no cost to the employee. Again, there's sick leave, and again, it cannot be banked. We do have a long-term disability plan, but again, there's a cap on the amount you can collect if you are deemed to be disabled and unable to work. And then pregnancy and parental leave, again, we offer that at our place of employment, but again, you collect through EI, and our employer will top up to 93% of your salary. So these are some of the things that we have and we talk about in terms of benefits. Not all companies offer everything that we've talked about here, but these are some of the more common ones. So in any case, I hope you found this little video of some help to you, and I hope it's kind of enlightened you as to the kinds of things that maybe when you graduate you can expect to have, or you can at least inquire about.